Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Dinger Dudes. I am here with the usual crew. We have Chase, we have Andrew Jefferson, and for the love of God, we have Jackson. But it's all right. We're going to talk about our fantasy baseball teams and how everything's shaking out. I think we had some good performances this week when it comes pitching. Kind of overruled this week. Like the offense was down on every level you can imagine. Usually I'm seeing teams like peak up to 350, 360, just not this week. It was a low
Nope.
offensive week for the for all everything in fantasy, every team in fantasy right now. So we're going to get into that and stick around because in the second half of the podcast we're going to be talking about underrated players of all time. And we're going to have long rants about why we think these players are underrated. So it's going to be a great episode, but before we get into all that, how is everybody?
No, Steven, I do want to step in and say real quick. I'm not gonna, speak on about it too much because I'm sure we will touch on it a little bit more at the very end of the video. But just so you guys know, all four of us, we attend the University of West Georgia. The semester is in full swing. So if you're wondering why we haven't been posting the, say our constant content like we were previously, it's because we're all getting adapted into this new school schedule. We all help out at the university's radio station.
Me,
We got three paid
Me and the
members of
twins
the
are
station.
all are actually this is our last year of college, so we're trying
Yep.
to get all of the classes, figured out, trying to get our schedules figured out. We actually have new jobs that we're doing at our radio station, and we're trying to start back our other show that we do, Sports Out of Pocket, at our college radio station. So if you guys want to see more constant uploads from us and constant content from us, please go to the Wolf Sports Network YouTube page, and you're going to see us over there on Sports Out of Pocket. And that we cover all sports. It's football, it's basketball, it's baseball. We're going to be covering everything, and you get the same wackiness and the crazy
Oh yeah.
stuff that over there than you do over here. So
Oh,
please,
don't make fun of Jackson over there.
Way more wacky, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah, it's crazy. So please, check us out over there. But we are going to be moving to another upload schedule. We're not going to be able to post weekly like we have been over the summer. We're going to have to go to a bi-weekly schedule, as we pointed out on social media and we posted on the Instagram story. So bear with us on that. We're still going to get content for you guys. We're going to stick with you until the end of the season, and hopefully, we by October, we're going to have some playoff episodes and just everything that's playing off, and hope to God that Braves players will stop getting injured, and we'll actually see October because I'm not liking the update I'm seeing on Austin Riley today, but we'll get into that also. If you guys don't mind, I know we're going to talk about fantasy, all right? But I
Sure.
want to bring up a story that's kind of been under the radar in sports media, and that's just because it's been kind of localized. Not a lot of people are upset except for Braves fans about this.
Okay.
Braves, okay, so the Braves had a series against the Giants this past week, and it was a four-game series. And in the third game of the series, Michael Harris made his amazing return from the injured list, and the first at bat that he hit a grand slam into
Oh
McCovey Cove.
yeah, he did.
Now, the person who got that baseball was McCovey Cove Dan.
Yes,
Dave. I
sir.
want to.
Oh,
Is it
Yeah, you're
McCovey Cove
right.
Dave or Dan?
You're right. Yeah.
So the McCovey Cove Dave. I'm sorry, it might be Dave or Dan. I have to look that up. Somebody can look that
I
up for
think
me
it's
real quick.
Dave. I think you're
Dave,
right. I think you're
McCovey
right.
Cove Dave. So he's basically just about at every Giants home game. He does the
Yeah.
he's in the kayak. He goes and he tries to get the baseball. So he got Michael Harris's baseball. That's Michael Harris's first grand slam that he's ever hit. So
Mhm.
Michael Harris obviously he wanted that ball. Now McCovey Cove Dave apparently bargained with the Braves and was like, so the Braves were offering him like an autographed jersey, didn't want it. Then the Giants stepped in, and was like, okay, well we're gonna offer you some memorabilia, didn't want it. So it came out on like some Braves reporter on it and said that McCovey Cove Dave wanted a job with the Giants organization in
Oh,
return for
oh.
baseball. Now, apparently, okay, reports have also come out that said that's not true. Apparently, what he actually wanted was a parking space where the players and the coaches park because it's more convenient for him for because he's at every Giants home game and he has such a big social media following. So he wanted a parking space where those players and coaches park. Now, all that being said, what kind of an entitled jackass is McCovey Cove Dave to just sit there and try and hold on to it. You have no entitlement to that ball. That's ridiculous. How you like? I've heard that he's caught over 80 something balls in that McCovey Cove, and you're just gonna sit there and be a jerk about this one? He put it in his museum. This is Jerk has a museum with all the memorabilia that he's collected. And Michael Harris is like, it's his first Grand Slam. It means a lot to the guy.
Yeah.
And you're just not going to give him the ball back. I think that's low. I'm
It
sorry.
is.
I think that's a
You
terrible
Whoa.
thing as a fan to do.
Yeah.
You remember when Alex Rodriguez got his like 3,000th hit? Do you know who Zach Campbell is?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, we know he's
Just
actually.
like the same that Zach Campbell would do.
And
Well,
yeah,
here's
it's
the
funny.
thing.
Well, I was going to say it's funny that you say this, Chase, or sorry, Steven, because I'm going to shout out my buddy Wyatt Lee over here because we were actually talking about this as of yesterday, last night when we were watching the Braves game. And Wyatt, Chase and I completely agree with you, Steven. I think that's uncalled for. I think that is just morally wrong. I mean, sure, just get your autographed jersey, which is still worth a lot of money. But the fact that you're making the Braves go out of their way to do something that really they have no control over, because that is not their unit, that's not their stadium, that's not their place to make a call like that. But to make it so unbelievably hard and unnecessary to get a baseball bat, I mean, come on. Like you said, that ball means more to Michael Harris than it does.
Take a jersey. Like,
Yeah,
are you
exactly.
kidding me?
And-
Like, brother, like, let's say if Bryce Harper hit his like I'm just saying, like if we were at a Braves game and Bryce Harper hit his 400th home run and I caught it, I'm not going to be such a much of a jerk about it. Like that's a huge accomplishment for that player. He wants the ball. I'm like, dude, just give me a jersey and we'll call it a day.
But
Like,
our buddy Wyatt disagrees.
Turn that down.
You had something. You had something.
I just want to quote Wyatt real quick, Chase, because I think it's funny. Wyatt is the only one that agreed with McCovey Day. And Wyatt
All right, Wyatt, we're going to have some words, brother. That's awful.
Wyatt said that he would have kept bargaining until he got like 100 bands out of that baseball. I'm like, Wyatt,
that's ridiculous.
Come on.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like, so you have to think about it. Like, okay, take for example Jackson Holliday when he hit his first home run. The people who got possession of it was a father and a son. Well, actually, the son caught it, but you know what they settled for? Their first offer. He's like, "Hey, listen, you caught his first career home run. Obviously, that's special for him." They settled for a signed bat, and they did it no problem. They met with him personally right after the game, got the signed bat. It was over. They had a nice little exchange. It was beautiful. Now, Michael Harris, Michael Harris, he's going to be a great player, of course, and he might not be like a Jackson Holliday, but nonetheless, here's my point. He hit his first career Grand Slam, and it went into the Cove. Now, like you point out, Steven, Dave has like 83 baseballs, and he sits in his little rowboat in the Cove and catches baseballs. Do you know how many total home runs have gone into that Cove? Like 97, I think.
Under 100.
No, well, San Francisco Giant players, anyways. 93.
And so, like,
and he caught 83 of those. He has a majority of those balls. He has no need to hold on to a ball. He's a Giants fan, number one. So this ball means nothing to him, like you said, Steven. And it's not like he's getting nothing for it. He's getting a jersey, a bat. Shoot, if he wanted the whole Braves team to sign a bat and give it to him, I'm sure they'd be willing to do that. But that's what he would rather take a parking spot for
even
better
a Giants player would have been happy to just as a like if I was on the other team, I'd be like, brother, I'll sign a jersey for the guy. Just like give him the ball. It's like that's not your accomplishment. I don't care how many games you've rowboat in your kayak and how many listen. Great, good for you. You built yourself a good social media following. You have a nice little fan base. But to be so entitled as a person to just keep that ball, I'm sorry, man. That's low. That's a very
Take it
that's
back
not right.
to Jorge Soler's Game 6 home run in the World Series that was acquired. Insane story. I'm not going to get into it right now because I don't want to take all the time.
Story.
But if you haven't heard the story, please go look it up. But it was just some random dude who just so happened to be sitting
apartment complex.
Yeah, at the very roof area of his apartment complex. Just happened to see it fall down in a fenced off area. Went to go retrieve it. Jorge Soler, they DM'd through some kind of social media platform. Jorge Soler found some way to get into contact with him, and the exchange was very easy. Jorge Soler met up with him in person. He gave him him a ball. Jorge Soler gave him some kind of special memorabilia in return, and that was that. Jorge Soler got the ball, and I would even argue, I would confidently argue that Jorge Soler home run ball is far more, I guess, higher price than Michael Harris's first career Grand
craziest
Slam.
story was the fact that
Oh.
didn't Tom Brady give a fan a Bitcoin for like a football back
No.
or something?
I've heard that. I've
And
heard that.
Say that this McCovey Code Dan wanted to sell this. I don't think he would. But
Dave.
say he wanted to
Dave.
sell
He
this.
said he's going to keep it in his museum, and I was like, for the love of God, you have a
But
museum. Give me a break.
Somebody goes to visit that. How it's just a regular looking ball. How would anybody be able to tell that was Michael Harris's 3,000th grand?
It's
I'm sure he's
probably
going to notarize it. He
Grand
notarizes
Slam.
all of the balls
Yeah.
that he has, but it's like I said, it's low. You should just make the trade off. Take what you can, just take the whatever they offer you and just give him the ball, because it's just like I said, Michael Harris isn't really getting any hard about it or have any feelings about it, because he was like, I'm just going to have to hit under the Grand Slam. But it's just not right, because it's never going to be your first. Like the
Right.
next one that he's
Right.
going to get is just going to be a second Grand Slam that he's ever hit in his career. But
Leave it
okay,
to a Giants
I
fan
just-
feeling entitled.
I wanted to bring that up because I thought that was ridiculous. It kind of ticked me off, because I'm like, as a player, that would make me angry. It's the fact that, dude, you're being so
Childish.
hard-headed about giving me this baseball that it just doesn't make any sense. But
It rubs me the
all
wrong
right.
way. It does.
Hey,
we're gonna go
Well, I
straight
would-
into fantasy. Fantasy.
hey, I
talk.
wanted to bring up one more thing.
That's great. I don't care. Fantasy talk.
No. I wanted to bring up one more thing. Today, finally, one of the Yankees' top prospects, shout out to Daniel Carp. I've been waiting for this guy to make his major league debut. Jason Dominguez finally got called up. He actually finally got called up for the Little League Classic. So I'm excited to see. He got signed as an international free agent when he was 16. I'm excited to see how he does in the league. I'm not a Yankees fan, but I'm excited to see how he does in the league.
And on another surprising note, Jackson made it to heaven, guys. Look at him. Look at his little new home. there.
Is a cereal better in heaven?
I'm
Yes.
eating Oreo O's, not sponsored, by the way.
Okay, well, while you sip on your Oreo oats, let's talk fantasy, Steven. I have the perfect way to kick things off, and I know that you and Chase will really want to get into y'all's matchup next week, because based off the results of this week, y'all's two matchups next week is gonna could determine the final playoff spot. So I'm gonna let you guys have your fair share. But just to kick things off, back on Tuesday, August the 13th, which funny enough, just so happened to be my very first day back on campus, me and Jason Barker, Jackson, please get a napkin, dude. Oh my gosh. It's so distracting. But anyways, Jason Barker, who we had on a previous episode weeks ago during the summer, we met up, talked in person. We knew the trade deadline was coming up later that week. Actually, that's following Sunday. So we were like, let's just get one final juicy trade cooking. Let's turn on the crock pot and let's get some water boiling here. So we end up doing something that, in my personal opinion, I think will benefit me more in the playoffs. Because let's face it, Jason Barker, he's 15-2 right now. He is highly favored to win this whole league right now. Every time I face him in a matchup, I have dropped near 350 points both times, and he still had me by at least 20. It's ridiculous. So I was like, what's been dragging me down? What in the world is dragging down Wander Franco's 14U
Nobody
baseball team?
can drag me
And I
down.
looked at my pitching staff, and I noticed that my pitching staff has been incredibly weak the last few weeks. And the main reason being, I mean, you got players like Garrett Crochet has fallen off since the All-Star break. Pablo Lopez, his numbers aren't as high as it's usually been. Imanaga has severely dropped since late June, and Blake Snell has pretty much been the only one that's had that resurgence. So I knew I needed a guy to re-solidify that foundation, and I know that Jason Barker was in dire need of an outfielder. So I was like, well, Chris Sale caught my eye immediately. I mean, why not? He's a favorite to win the NL Cy Young. So I threw him in a package. Aaron Judge, the current leader for the AL MVP, just hit his 300th career home run. Congratulations to Judge. Alec Bohm, who, granted, hasn't been playing all that well since the All-Star break, but still a very solid third baseman or utility guy you can have on your team. And Mario Kelly, who just got back from an injury when I had him on my team. He's really only had like 2 starts, and he's gone about like 14, 15. So not the best, but I just want to get him something in replacement. So in return, I acquired Chris Sale, Cody Bellinger, who's been playing fantastic for the Cubs since the Cubs have been red hot, and Nolan Arenado, which I'll give Jackson his little minor shout out.
Chris
Has
Sale's the
been
main
playing.
part of the trade. Yeah, so you got Chris Sale. That was
So
the
what
main
y'all
that was the
thinking?
main target.
What are y'all thinking? Who won that trade in your eyes?
Barker got Aaron Judge
He did.
to add
He
on
did.
to Corbin Carroll. To like, dude, not only does Jason Barker also like Merrill Kelly's a great addition to the rotation, even though Merrill Kelly didn't have a great outing today.
Sure.
Now, I mean, like I said, 8 out of 10 times you're going to get a good outing from him. Not only now he's just got a balance. Now he's got a very powerful outfield. He's got a pretty good offense, along with that number one pitching rotation that every single team has gone against Jason Barker and has had issues with that pitching rotation. I mean, hold on, I got to look it up today because he's that's the whole thing is like look at his pitching rotation right now. And oh, come on, matchup. Here we go. There you go. So he's got Luis Castillo, Corbin Burns, Bear, who's been all of a sudden just going off.
Yes.
Reagans, who's had,
Kershaw.
last outing had a 24-point performance. You have Woo, you have Clayton Kershaw, who's been great. Garrett Cole that he has back. Yepes, and the fact that he has Yamamoto on IL when Yamamoto comes back. I mean, it's
that's the thing.
It's tough to beat.
Forgot about one thing.
That's the thing I want to point out.
You also have Tatis.
Well, we're talking about pitchers. Jackson, we've been listening out the entire. Go back to your Oreo.
No, he mentioned Judge and Carroll, right?
Well, hang on.
That was like 5 minutes ago.
Well, hang on.
Get with the program.
So highlighting pitching, that's the thing that made this smart about Jason taking this trade. Because you think about it, you're like, oh, he's giving up Chris Sale. But then you look at his lineup, you're like, okay, giving up Chris Sale's not that big of a deal because all up and down his rotation, it is loaded. So he's giving up, yes, an NL Cy Young leader in Chris Sale, but he's backed up by so many dominant pitchers that really doesn't matter. So it's worth the price of getting rid of Chris Sale to get a dominant American League MVP leader, Aaron Judge. And I was talking to Jason actually, and talking about his strategy on draft day, and it made me realize that, dang, I should have taken his strategy on draft day because what he did was the first couple rounds, he realized pitching's the most important part in a fantasy lineup. So he went pitcher heavy the first 5 rounds, knowing that he could wait for the later rounds to get batters that will still produce in a great way, which is how he got players like Alex Bregman, Corey Seager. Well, now Aaron Judge, I got from Angie, but Simeon, who's, always been probably the only reliable hitter on the Rangers this year. So
actually, I drafted Bregman. I dropped him.
Well, my point is, nonetheless, looking at how Jason cared about his team this year, it has made me change my strategy completely coming into the next fantasy season in the MLB. So kudos to Jason, because 17-2. Having this dominant record, I'm just trying to make the playoffs. If I make whoever has the 4 seed is going to have to play Jason, by the way. So if I make the playoffs or Steven makes the playoffs, we're going to have to play Jason, which that would just be a shot in the dark, a miracle.
You just have to hope he has an off week.
Shohei is on the board,
which is rare, which is very rare.
While Steven was having his little quickie, I noticed that all of y'all, none of y'all have ever said anything about how this benefits my team. And I'm a little offended to be, quite frank with you guys.
Because, listen, dude, it's like, okay, I will say that offered you a really good pitcher in Chris Sale. Looking at your team, Andrew.
Give it to me straight, Steven.
Blake Snell.
Jackson, are you laying down?
Imanaga, man. Imanaga has just been off, and Pablo Lopez has been so inconsistent this year. Garrett Crochet has just shot himself in the foot with the comments that he made at the trade deadline, and ever since those comments, the man's just never been able to get back to it. And then Chris Sale, and Waldron, who
Matt Waldron.
if we're talking MLB The Show, it's a fantastic piece to have. But we're talking about real life, and Matt Waldron, he's been up and down here, as we can see by his last few performances in 1 and -3.
What about Luis Severino, man?
At the end of the day, you needed a guy. Luis Severino pitched a complete game for you. He's been on your bench. He's a great piece to have. Chris Sale gives you that consistency. gives you that anchor in your pitching rotation. So I think it was a good deal for you. It's just, oh man, giving
I understand.
Parker Aaron Judge is on the same level as when okay, and I'm sorry, these are friends. If you're not a fan of Sports Etapagi, you're not going to know. But back in our fantasy football team, when Brennan Willoughby Ray got um, all those different, like the tight ends from the Vikings, TJ
Oh gosh. Oh
and
yeah.
all of that package. That's
Because he
on the same level right
manipulated
now.
these two.
I
What?
wasn't involved in that.
I wasn't involved in that either. I wasn't involved in that
Jackson,
either.
I got
What do you
4
mean
players for
manipulated?
Travis Kelce. That's an insane
Jackson.
take that you say that I
Oh,
got
they-
fleeced.
Steven made the trade. What are you coming
TJ
at us for?
TJ Hawkinson ended up tearing his ACL like the next couple.
Yeah, the
in
last 2 weeks of the season.
I also want to make it known that I was in the championship game, so I don't want to hear any trash talk from you, Jackson Bolts. I did my duties. My bills are paid.
But
I
yeah,
paid
I
my
mean,
bills. My bills
basically,
are
that's
paid.
what I'm saying is that you basically gave Darth Vader another lightsaber. You gave Thanos another gemstone. You
Okay.
get another
Okay.
Do
infinity.
it, Jackson. Do
Can I
it.
say something real quick?
Yeah, say it, Jackson. I want to hear this.
Oak. That's the key to winning.
Keep going. Like I'm not pulling up. I'm not putting up with it.
Well, let's transition. Steven,
Yeah, we
like,
have a matchup coming up this week. It's me and you. We're tied. We're both going to be 10-10.
and here's the thing. I needed 3 things to happen this week
Where's Andrew?
to make next week possible.
Yeah, Gavin lost. Wyatt lost. You beat Wyatt, and
I beat
got
Gavin.
killed.
You're watching.
Jackson
By the
beat
way-
Gavin.
By the way, how many games have y'all played against Parker?
No,
I think
two,
once.
two.
I think just once.
Let me check my schedule, but I'm pretty sure it's just 2.
Well, I know I played
3
Jason.
times this season, dude.
Well, I
3
played
fucking
Jason.
times.
I played
Okay.
Jason week 2, and he made one of the craziest Sunday comebacks. William Contreras had 23 points for him on Sunday, and that's how I lost to Jason.
Like that's what I'm
yeah.
saying. It's like, dude, I just played Willoughby Ray. Now I have to play him again in the last week of the season. So let's say great, I can pull off a win against Chase this week. Then I have to play against Willoughby Ray. And let's say Chase gets a win in the last week. I get beaten by Willoughby Ray. Chase goes in the playoffs because he's got more points than me overall.
And I got to
Steven-
play Gavin the final week of the season, and Gavin still has a chance to make the playoffs. So, I mean,
Steven-
Gavin's not even made any moves to his team. I think Gavin's kind of checked
he
out.
hasn't.
But
And Steven, it does suck to hear you say that, especially with the whole Brennan thing, because I don't know how in the world I managed to finish my matchup with Brennan 3 wins to no losses.
I beat him
Absolutely
last time,
ridiculous.
but that was just like I had to make a really good. I had to pay attention, and all of my team had to go off like crazy, and we ended up beating Brennan Willoughby Ray's team. But let's focus on the matchup this week. It's me and Chase.
Yes.
My problem right now is I'm gonna have to really pay attention to my pitching this week because all of my
Yeah,
pitchers
myself.
were heavy in the weekend. So all of my starters did not pitch until like my first starter didn't go until Thursday. So again, none of my starters are going to be going until the middle of the week. Chase is probably going to have a front loaded. Like, do you have anybody going on Monday, Chase?
Let me look.
Uh-oh.
I'm actually
Uh-oh.
not sure.
But basically,
Well,
that's where it's going to go through. Like, honestly, the way that my strategy has changed throughout the season is I'm not even focusing on offense anymore.
Sure,
Like
yeah.
I'm going through in here. Like I'm just hoping that some of my guys can just hit the ball out of the ballpark. Jordan's been consistent for me. Cattell Marte, best second baseman in the league. He's been nuts this year. 30
Resurgence.
plus home runs. The man's been going crazy.
Yeah.
And now, but then he went day to day. Riley, my starting third baseman. Who knows how long he's going to be out? So that's a huge blow for my lineup this week.
Huge.
Luckily, I've got Matt Chapman on the bench, so we're still okay there.
So this is what I learned about my team this week. So heading into this week, Grayson Rodriguez won the IL. I was devastated, but I wasn't shocked because my team's been injury prone all season. And then like 3 days ago, Tyler Glasnow went back on the IL. So I was stressing out of my mind about how my pitchers were going to do. But this is what I learned about my team. The rotation, I did not make any changes to my pitching rotation this week because the rotation I have right now has been unbelievable. Nestor Cortez pitched a gem for me on Tuesday. Christopher Sanchez, I think it was Thursday, that went absolutely nuts.
Almost 30. He gave you 29.
Raisel Iglesias, the first 2 games of the Giants season, came in and dominated. He gave me a bunch of fantasy points.
Yep.
I've had
Schoenbach.
Alec Marsh. Alec Marsh, who's been a solid pitch rotation. So I'm hoping that despite the injuries,
Be scared Riley Green is
Whoa.
off the IL.
He
Riley
is.
Green
Oh,
is back
You are
in
right,
this
Steven.
lineup.
You are right.
So
you are absolutely
I have
right.
Yordan Alvarez, Anthony Santander, and Riley Green as my outfield, along with my utility player, which is oh man, it's gonna have to be Ryan O'Hearn because everybody else is either day to day or hurt. So because Jorge Soler's
Well,
not gonna be back in time, Riley's gonna have to go on the bench. But
Jordan,
hey, I'll
a
take that.
move, a move that I did make on Monday with the help of Jason Barker. Shout out to you, Jason, because he recommended this player to me, and that was Tyler Fitzgerald, the shortstop for the Giants, who's given me 15 points this week. He's been he had that bad game Monday night with the in that first game, the Giant series, with the Braves series. But ever since then, he's been unbelievable. So I want to thank you, Jason Barker, for helping me add that addition. And Jackson, I don't know what that picture is or who you're trying to say looks like that.
he just sent me a personal text and said, "Stick your hair up."
Me?
And me. We're over here talking about fantasy baseball, and this man wants me to look like a
So
cartoon.
yeah,
I have nothing to
it's
say.
gonna be one of those where
You know
I'm gonna
what?
have to.
I'm
You're gonna have
eliminated,
to
bro.
both of the
I'm
pitchers
checked
are going to
out
be
next
going
week.
because the pitchers are where you're going to be getting most of your points from. If I can get some solid 20s and some 25, 22s here and there, that's great. High strikeout total, that's what you're looking for.
Which, funny enough, a couple episodes ago when we were doing a FaceTime, I was dogging on Christopher Sanchez, and I was saying how absolutely done I am because because ever since his complete game against the Marlins, like in July, his 3 next starts were terrible. But then he comes Thursday and pitches out of his mind, and now I'm still in that tightrope of do I want to keep him in my lineup and hope he doesn't go cold again, or do I want to play it safe and find something more reliable? But right now, I'm leaning more towards keeping him because if he can be dominant like he was this week in that complete game shot against the Marlins, then he will be a huge asset in my matchup with you, Steven. Unless he goes cold, then I might
just
be
a shout out
screwed.
to anybody that's even going to try and do this. Dylan Cease and Zach Wheeler are not getting off my team. I'm not
The
trading
trade
them.
deadline.
I don't care what you unless you're giving me an ace like a Tyler Glass now. Like I'm not doing it.
The
It's
trade
not
deadline is
happening.
over.
Like
You
I don't
can't
care if
trade
you give me
anymore.
Stephen Kwan. It's not happening, Mr. Barker. I'm sorry. I'm
You
not
can't
giving
trade
up my top-
anymore.
Jackson, shut up.
You can't trade anymore.
He knows that. He knows that. But I do want to say, listen, and first of all, congratulations to both you and Chase.
When did the
Steven,
trade deadline hit?
Sunday.
The 16th.
Sunday.
That's why he was so desperate about it. So that I didn't know the trade deadline actually hit today.
Yeah, Jason Barker, because Jason Barker, as we all know, has been involved with at least 95% of all the trades that's gone on. Jeremy! What's up, Jeremy? But yeah, gotta love a Jeremy cameo. But I do want to just say congratulations to you, Steven, and you, Chase, for fighting through the gridiron of the season. You both stand in the third to last week of the year with a fighting chance to make the playoffs. And I love when there's a tight race at the end of the season because we really needed that, because Brennan ran away with his lead. Of course, Jason Barker was the first to clinch, and then I clinched last week.
I mean, really, what are we winning? We're literally going to be winning a first-round matchup with Mr. Barker. So I'm going to be fighting like crazy, but if I'm going to be able to get into the playoffs, that's what matters. I'm kind of like the Braves right now. I'm just scratching. I'm scratching and clawing to get into the playoffs.
You gotta kind of take the Phillies route and just hope we get hot at the right time and we can pull off a miracle against Jason. That's really the only thing we can hope for.
I also just want to say, just give us just a quick little shout out because we've had a fallen soldier this season. Wyatt Lee. His story was he was full of like a three. I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. First started off season 0-5, then somehow miraculously
started
went
off
on an
0-7
streak. 0-7.
And then he went 7-7, and then he went straight 7 straight times.
And now he's lost 4 in a row. He's fallen to 8-11. Chase is about to take this matchup with him. But I do want to defend you real quick, Wyatt Lee, which, by the way, is we might have on an episode later down the stretch. Do you want to shout you out, Wyatt? Because listen, you've had it rough ever since the All-Star break. I'm not gonna lie to you, brother. You've been the Weenie Hut Junior Hospital for MLB players. Ozzy Albies down on your IL. He won't come back till September. Jazz Chisholm, he was playing fantastic for the Yankees, suffers a season-ending injury after signing a home plate. And then you look at his pitching staff. He's been begging on his knees for Renato Lopez, just like the rest of Braves country, to come back. And his time has been extended over and over again. So Wyatt, I see you, brother. I see you crying for help. It's too late for you to make a difference now, but I want to be known that Wyatt Lee was screwed by injuries.
I
Hey,
just
I
want to
just
go ahead
wanna
and say
say-
that there's
I
another
just-
person that I drafted, and like I really got to shout him out again, just because I mean nobody was expecting him to be in the top 5 outfielders when I first drafted the guy, Anthony Santander. Do
Yeah.
you know what this man has done this season? 36 homers,
30.
80 RBIs, with a 240 average. The man has just been so consistent for me. Ketel Marte has been holding it down for me on the infield because Dansby Swanson has sucked this year.
Yep.
Been
That
one of
was
the
a
worst shortstops
dude.
in the league. I feel bad for him because I always want to root for Dansby Swanson, but he is just been
Valerie Swanson
horrible this
runs
year.
that relationship. Sorry, Dansby.
We're recording.
But
Hey, she's got-
I
she's got
don't know.
no
It's
medal.
going to be a fun matchup. Hopefully, I think Chase, me and you, our matchup's going to go to the wire.
It is.
I'm hoping it
is.
does. I'm hoping you just don't kill me. I'm hoping your team just doesn't go
Hey.
blow me out by 300.
Hey,
like
I just wanna
Same
say-
here. I hope that'll happen to me too.
Before we end this segment, I do want to say, unfortunately, I have not had a lot to say this segment due to the fact that I'm pretty much eliminated. Unfortunately, Julio Rodriguez didn't do well for me like the first whole half of the season.
sucked.
What? Yeah, he did.
It's because he was on your team, you stupid idiot.
Hey, I'm hoping
Jackson was desperate to trade him too.
I'm hoping to have a resurgence in fantasy football, but I do want to make an announcement because we didn't make an announcement last one. We have an interview coming up with former Miami Marlins pitcher coming up this week, Justin Nicolino. So Justin, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to do that interview. And also, since we're all back together, if y'all did not watch last episode, we're all back together here in campus. We should start doing, if y'all want to see what kind of content we all do, like in person together, like some more guest the players. Some immaculate grids. If y'all want to do that for in
A
person,
home run derby, maybe? A home
a
run
home run
derby?
derby, we can.
Oh, dude, we should do that for like a playoff thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
At the
Oh, yeah.
Bremen.
That's
Rec,
what we
bro.
should have done to determine the thing for the draft order.
It's the
A
home run derby.
Oh, dude, that would have. Oh, that'd have been so fun, dude. Dude, poor Jackson would have gotten the last pick. Oh, poor guy.
That was Chase. Wait, no, that was you. You lost our home run derby to do the hot dog
Yeah.
and beer challenge.
I was also hitting off a broke tee. I just wanted to make that known. Just think
But-
that's a little important to put out there, but it's fine.
But
It's fine. Oh,
yeah, I mean, so like Jackson said,
No,
since
it's
we're all
not.
together we're all together in the same. We're all going to be at the university together.
Yep.
We're going to have a lot of time since we're all together, we're going to make some more content with each other. We're going to be doing, like you said, guess the players. We're going to be doing some immaculate grids. We're going to be doing a whole bunch of things. Like we're going to be. I feel like the home run derbies obviously as well. We're going to come up with a lot of content. We're going to be posting it on Instagram, so keep on looking at that. But with all that being said, I feel like it's about time to talk about some underrated players. All right, it's time to get into the most underrated players in Major League Baseball history. Now, obviously, we're going to go ahead and start off with I want to say Chase, because Chase has a lengthy rant he wants to get into with one of the players that he has. So I'm going to let Chase start things off.
He was very
Hey,
passionate, and by the way, Jackson Volts is looking good right now. Well, I don't know if that's just me, but
This
he
looks-
looked better.
It just feels right. It feels
This-
complete now.
Right. I
Um,
actually I love looking at Jackson all of a sudden.
But that's never happened before. It's weird.
Hey,
I guess
hey,
it's
Usually I
I
try to
got a
avoid
lot
the
of
corner,
work
but I
on
just
this
can't.
summer, all right?
I can tell.
You look 10 times better, my dude. Like, I mean, it's incredible.
I appreciate it.
All right, but Chase, why don't you start on this rant, and hopefully Jackson stays looking that way.
All right. Well. Oh,
What do you mean?
Just like, oh, God.
I've been sitting here the whole time.
Well, yeah. I must be tired because like 10 seconds ago you were like really good looking.
Yeah, this is a. Put
And-
it away, dude. Put it
and-
away.
Alrighty, Chase. Who is
That
it?
is
I'm
regret.
I'm actually very curious.
Well, everybody
Let's
just
hear
unsubscribed, I'm sure, so I don't know if I'm talking to anybody anymore. But,
Yeah.
when you are good, well, actually, first off, before I even get into my rant, I'm going to go and say the player, and I'm going to read off his career stats, and I want to make a point. So the player that I'm going to be talking about,
Actually, don't say the player. Just read the stats. And we
For the
can
love
guess.
of God, just let him do it.
you're not. If I read the stats, you're not going to be able to guess it. So
Put handsome Jackson back on.
I think that he's criminally underrated,
Yeah.
not in a Hall of Fame sense, because he didn't have Hall of Fame stats,
Yeah.
but when I get into my rant I have, you'll understand what I mean.
Sure.
Nick Markakis
Yeah.
Former
Yeah.
Oriole and former Atlanta Brave. Throughout his career, he only had 189 home runs. He wasn't much of a home run hitter, but he had 1,046 RBIs, which is solid. 2,388 hits, which is something you want to take note of. But this is the thing I want to highlight the most. A career batting average of 288. Now, that's the name of the game for Nick Markakis. So the first point I want to make, when you are going through the history of MLB players, there are only a few that you will find that have longevity and are able to play at a really good level at a high age, like Nick Markakis.
I see where this is
all
going.
throughout his career, not counting the COVID season, because that was a weird season, he never played less than 145 games, other than the 2012 and 2019 season, where he still played over 100 games. But to shine on this more, now listen to this, between the 2007 season and the 2018 season, he finished, I lost my spot. Sorry, between the 2007 and 2018 season, Markakis finished top 10 in the MLB in most games played 9 times, including the 2009 and 2018 season where he played more games than anyone else in the league. In his 2018 All-Star season, he played 162 games. And in case you don't know, there's 162 games in the season. And in 2009, he only missed 1 game. And to me, longevity is one of the most important aspects and something that is extremely overlooked because it's this aspect of a player that is really rare, especially in the era that he played in, and most definitely in the MLB we know and love today.
No, quick pause. I'm gonna let you finish. I just want a quick pause, just a quick little comment. Love that you shout out Nick Markakis, by the way. He definitely needs some recognition. Loved him as a player, loved him as a hitter. I'm gonna let you explain all that. But I'm curious. I know you have some more notes ahead of you, but just because a player has a lot of longevity doesn't mean that player deserves to be recognized as one of the most underrated. So I'm hoping that you'll get into that here in a minute. I'm sure you will. I just want to point that out. Love the longevity side of him. But let's hear some stats. Let's hear some reasoning behind why should he be recognized as one of the most underrated players in this league?
Glad you say that because as a Braves fan, I got to see a lot of Nick Markakis, especially in the later years of his career. And I cannot think of anyone else that I had more confidence in that he was going to go up and get on base. Now, he was never a flashy player and never had much pop to his bat, but his discipline, and I mean this with all my heart, his discipline and his ability to make contact on the ball was far better than most of the MLB stars that he played with during his time. Now, to back this up, just to throw some stats at you, he finished 4th in the American League in most runs scored with 106 in the 28 season when he was with the Orioles, which again, that just highlights his consistency of getting on base because to score runs, you got to get on base. He finished if you didn't know that, he finished top 5 in the MLB in most doubles hit 6 times and finished in the top 10 9 times in his career. 2 of those times, he was in the top 3, which shows he was a double machine.
Which makes sense because he was great buds with Freddie Freeman. He was also a double machine in the National League. So it makes a lot of sense.
You also talked about this too, and I think y'all have mentioned it kind of. I honestly think that another thing that's underrated about Nick Markakis is that he was actually a very good outfielder. I think in right field, the man had the reason he played right field is because he had a great arm on him. He was able to nab runners out at the plate. He was just a great, he could cover a lot of ground in his younger days of his career. And honestly, when he was in 2019, he was a great addition to the outfield when the Braves really needed somebody to cover that spot. Like you said, he's very consistent with an on base guy. He was a guy that was very he was a guy that you could just sit there and go, okay, I need somebody to get on base for the runner. I need somebody to move a guy over. He was reliable, but he was never flashy. And I feel like that's why a lot of people overlook him.
And that's my point exactly. And I actually didn't have his outfield stats in my notes, so I'm glad you brought up how good and how reliable the outfielder he was. But I have a couple more stats to throw at you.
He had a lot of outfield assists, especially during his time in Baltimore.
Absolutely.
After you finish up, can I go next? Because I have 2 players, but I want to let everybody get through their first player first before I mention the second player.
So
Okay,
okay, I got you.
So, to talk about his doubles, so he finished top 10 in either the American League or National League, whichever one he was in at the time, and most hits in a season 8 times, including his remarkable 2018 All-Star season at the age of 34, where he finished third in the National League in hits with 185. Now, he had some awards to his name too, and I didn't know this, so I did some research. In 2007, he was named the MVP for the Baltimore Orioles. Where in 2007, he was completely robbed of an All-Star, and that was his second year in the league. He had a 300 batting average throughout the season, where he played 147 games, a 362 OBP, a 485 slugging percentage, an 848 OPS. He had 23 home runs and 112 RBIs, 18 stolen bases, if you want to throw that there too. Completely robbed of an All-Star that year. Now, I have a couple more points to make. This is really my last point I want to make. I want to talk about his remarkable rookie season with the Baltimore Orioles in 2007. That was his rookie season.
He really started off his career hot. He really did.
I was thinking 2006 was his rookie season. That was actually 27. So he was named the MVP on the Orioles his rookie season. Just want to throw that out there. His rookie season, like I said, he played 147 games. Wait, hang on, I think I had that mixed up. No, I'm sorry. He won the MVP for the Orioles in 2008. 2007 was his rookie season. I got that mixed up.
That sounded more right, because I was like, I don't think he did his rookie year, but okay, proceed.
It was 2008. So 2007 is when he played 147 games, had a 291 average, 16 home runs, 62 RBIs, a 351 OBP, a 448 slugging percentage, a 799 OPS, and he won the American League Rookie of the Month in the month of August. And
for sure,
this I remember this about Nate Markakis, and this really showed what type of player he was. So prior to the 2020 season, he was one of the players that opted out. He didn't want to play that year because of COVID, and because of that, he was considering retirement. Well, halfway through the season, which was like 25 games in, which is weird to say because there's only 60 games that regular season, he came back because the Braves need him the most. And his first game back with the Atlanta Braves, he hit a walk-off home run against the Toronto Blue Jays, back like he never left, and he
to the chop house. But why did he come back, Chase?
I wish he would have had a better last season of his career because he came back off of COVID. That was the only home run he ever hit that year, which is kind of crazy.
It was, and I think he finished like a 250 batting average, but he was still a part of that NLCS run, which we should have won. I'm not going to get into that, but that's my point. It's that he was 36 years old in 2020. The Braves needed him at the time, so he came in and he produced, not like he did throughout the majority of his career, but he still produced. And that's why I think Nate Markakis is underrated. Not in a Hall of Fame sense, but in the sense that when you needed a base hit, I can't think of anyone else that was more reliable than Nate Markakis.
And shout out to Frederick Freeman, because Frederick Freeman's the one that went out and contacted him to bring him back during COVID year. And shout out to Stephen Kwan, because give Stephen Kwan the longevity of Nate Markakis. Stephen Kwan is a little bit more of a power hitter than Nate Markakis is, I'd have to say, but he could be known as a modern day Nate, man. Great player, Chase. But Jackson, do you want to get on with yours?
Go ahead and say yours.
All right. So for my first player, Chase, I love how you mentioned longevity. Speaking of longevity, this guy played 24 years in the MLB for 6 different teams. And just to let you know, after the age of 30, he had a total of 7 Gold Gloves, 2 All-Stars, and he was top 20 in the MLB MVP race in 1999. I'm talking about Omar Vizquel, three-time All-Star, 11-time Gold Glove Award winner. I don't think he gets the recognition as deserved due to when you think of greatest shortstops of all time. I know Derek Jeter's thrown up there, and if you talk about like Alex Rodriguez, but he's like more known as a third baseman. But Omar Vizquel, he had a career batting average of 272. Yes, he wasn't known as a home run hitter. In my opinion, he was known as like a 90s Whit Merrifield. So he only averaged 4 homers, 52 RBIs a season, yet he still had he averaged 33 doubles a season. and he averaged 177 hits a season. And now barely people there's back then a lot of players were not known to get 200 hits a season. There were very few players to get 200 hits a season, and that was McGuire, that was Sosa, that was Bonds, guys like them. Omar Vizquel, again, not known as a home run hitter, and that's probably why he's been overlooked. But shout out to Omar Vizquel. If you're Pride of Venezuela,
We're gonna get him on an interview. I'm gonna DM him real quick. I'm gonna find him on Instagram and see if we can get. All righty. Yeah,
Don't
listen,
DM
man, that
Jackson.
actually does. Like, what do you think kept him from being like up there, like a Hall of Famer? What do you think kept him from getting into that that resume?
maybe, well, considering the 4 homers, 52 RBIs a season, that's probably
And-
why.
He wasn't a
I
power
think-
hitter, so it wasn't flashy.
And I
Yeah,
will
he wasn't
say-
flashy. He
Honestly,
wasn't flashy.
that was a
He was
great.
an
That was a
insane fielder, though.
That was a great segue because I think he might have been he might have been a version of Nate Markakis during his era in terms of not being flashy. The only difference was he was an insane shortstop. And
Yeah.
I don't know, you could argue the fact that maybe he wasn't overlooked in assists. I think defensively, I think people remember him for his defense.
Insane.
But I
Yeah.
think he got a lot of hits. That was a great point you made, Jackson. That not a lot of player got that many hits in a season. So you
In the
can say
90s.
in terms of
Yeah.
that, he might have been ahead of his time. So
If
actually,
his
to your point,
offense
Jackson,
was like more consistent and if he was able to be a guy that can get like 15, 20 homers a season,
right.
then we're talking about him being like one of the top
Oh.
5 shortstops of all time.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
that's just
And
the
I will,
case.
and I will say, like, one thing that's added to both of those players, and this goes with longevity too, is there's a clutch factor to them. Because I even remember going back to Nate Markakis, he had a lot of late game situations that he was put in front of and came through for the Braves. And same with your player, Jackson.
2018 walk off against the Phillies on opening day. We all
right.
Yeah, and I was also gonna. Oh, I was
Mm.
also gonna point out, and you could even say, Jackson, maybe compare him to a guy like Andrelton Simmons if you're going like a guy in a more recent decade, more value for his Golden Glove and his defensive stance, which isn't a bad thing. I actually personally think it needs to be more valued in the game of baseball. But yeah, maybe the low hit stats is what kept him out of the Hall of Fame. But yeah, good pick, Jackson.
One more thing I wanted to say before Steven says his pick. His total hits during his 24-year career, 2,877. So almost 3,000 hits.
All right.
Solid.
I want to go ahead and play a little game.
Let's
Okay.
play a
I like
game.
this.
I'm gonna name this man's stats. Y'all go ahead and y'all can guess, but I'm gonna read out his stats and then y'all are gonna tell me who do you think the player is.
So hold
Okay,
our
we're
answers to the end. Are we holding our answers to the end?
Until the
Yeah.
end, until I read out all
Okay.
of the stats.
Okay.
Jackson, are you going to follow rules last time? Because last week you didn't want to follow the
Can
rules.
you at least
again.
give us a
So-
position?
1,933 hits, 434 homers in his career, 1,289 RBIs, and a career batting average of 254.
And can you give us a decade, or is that too much?
Can you give us a position?
10 Gold Gloves in his career.
Can
Wait,
you give us a position?
Outfield,
wait.
center field.
Say the stats one more time. I'm sorry. Can you run through the stats one more time?
Oh, I know. Is it Andrew
Okay,
Jones?
Jackson,
one more time, and then,
shut
and then
up.
the Twins are going to be able to get this right. Okay. So this man had 1,933 hits in his career, 434 home runs in his career, 1,289 RBIs in his career, and he also had 10 Gold Gloves with a career batting average of 254. Center field.
254 is center fielder.
Uh-oh.
Come on, Twins.
Okay.
I
can
know.
I have a guess.
Jackson, go ahead and say it.
Oh, no,
Andrew
no,
Jones.
no. I was just about to say Andrew
Nope,
Jones.
nope,
You
too bad.
already
Andrew
had a
Jones.
guess.
It's sad that you two didn't get it
You
as a Braves
are-
fans, and
I
I
was
knew this off the
literally-
bat after
Alrighty.
you said.
Jackson,
No.
Jackson,
Okay. Let's segue out of that. Let's
Oh,
go
okay.
ahead.
Absolutely
Why
not.
is
This is what
Andrew
pisses me
Jones-
off, Jackson. You already had your guess. Let other people play. I was just about to say Andrew Jones.
Okay.
Screw
It's
you,
fine.
Jackson
There's no
Bolts.
point. There's no point total. It's all good. Now, okay. Now, all of the fans out there that's watching this video, why is Andrew Jones underrated? I mean, everybody would pretty much consider him being a top 10 outfielder of all time.
I'm
he's
curious
an
to hear
incredible
this.
player, Man's also got 430 something home runs. Like I just said, I read out his stats. Why is he underrated?
Yeah,
Because
I never
baseball,
consider.
Major League Baseball, doesn't think the man is a Hall of Famer. What are we doing? Do you see the stats that I just read out for you? Hold on, I pulled up a great article by Sports Illustrated
I'm applauding
going
you, Steven.
over
I'm glad you're talking about this. I really am.
going over
Yeah.
why Andrew Jones deserves to be a Hall of Famer, and it's not even close. Okay. I have to. My gosh, I just had all of it, and it's all.
Oh, you're
gonna
good.
sit here and go
And I'm
through
just
it.
going to
Yeah.
give my 2 cents while you're pulling that up. Andrew Jones. And the reason why, because Andrew Jones would have been an easy pick for any of us. But I shied away from Andrew Jones because you're right, Steven. This is a guy that put any guy with a brain cell in the office of Major League Baseball Hall of Fame inductees. Anyone's going to put Andrew Jones in there because his stats are far more remarkable than I'd say about 20% of the players who are in the Hall of Fame right now. So it does make you question why, with all the defensive stats that he has, all those Gold Gloves, all the part of the almost a 450 home run member, what was keeping him out of the Hall of Fame? It seems to be no rhyme or reason why he shouldn't be in there. So yeah, one of the greatest mysteries of the game.
This is an article from Sports Illustrated that I think is really well written, and it talks about how Andrew Jones is being snubbed out of the Hall of Fame. From his 1996 debut through the 2007 season, Andrew Jones batted .263 with .342 and a .497 slash, with 368 homers and 1,117 RBIs. Won 10 Gold Gloves during that span, something that only 5 outfielders have done in Major League Baseball history. 4 of them, Willie Mays, Roberto Clemente, Al Kaline, and Ken Griffey Jr. All of them are in the Hall of Fame.
Look at the company, just the other players you listed below. If his stats are even comparable to the rest of the 4, which, by the way, are in the Hall of Fame,
In that same
why not
span,
Andrew?
he was worth more than 10 defensive B WAR, more than the next closest defender, Ivan Rodriguez, outpacing him 26.7 to 16.5. This man wasn't just a one-dimensional player, too, like a lot of people are saying about him. Like, oh, he's just a great defense. Man batted 468 homers in his career. He was a power hitter, too, along with his defense that he also had. 10 Gold Gloves is nothing to sniff at. The man was obviously not consistent. The man had a .250 average in his career. I feel like if
that's
the
the only
average 20
reason
points
why he's
higher,
not in the Hall of Fame.
That's not a good reason. That's not a good reason.
The man
it's not a good reason.
almost had 500 home runs in his career. That makes no sense. I don't care if the man didn't get 270 average in his career.
He should be a Hall of
Based
Famer.
on his defensive statistics alone, along with the power numbers, the man deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and it's not even close.
And I do want to point out that he did have a handful of seasons where his average ended at the 270, 280 mark. So it's not like he was inconsistent throughout his entire career. Matter of fact, the better years of his career, he was one of the most consistent hitters in baseball. But it was the end of his career when his average started dropping.
Andrew, you just said it. You just said it a couple minutes ago, and it was a compliment what Steven just said about him being one of 5 players to have 10 Gold Gloves in the outfield, the other 4 being Hall of Famers. Andrew, you said it. Gold Gloves is something the MLB needs to prioritize more.
So 2000 was his best season probably that he ever played because he was an all-star that year. He batted 303 in that season, and also
the golden years
had 36 home runs along to go with that.
Ridiculous.
It was an incredible season that year, and not to mention, like, the man was also a 5-time All-Star to go along with all of the statistics. I mean, you can look back on his career, and obviously the man's obviously a top 5 center fielder of all time, in my opinion.
100%.
We can go through the list here.
Sure.
I mean, obviously,
I just think that it's ridiculous that through all those statistics that he's not like. I mean, listen, first ballot, whatever. Like him not being in the Hall of Fame just doesn't make any sense. And obviously, I'm coming from a biased Braves fan, but let's just look at a baseball fan.
It should be a disgrace to everybody.
Like, look at his career statistics, and him not being in the Hall of Fame is just it doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, obviously, I never grew up watching Aaron Jones because that was before my time.
Andrew Jones.
I mean, that's what I meant, Andrew Jones. That was a little bit before my time. But obviously, I've looked back at highlights of Andrew Jones, his incredible plays in the outfield. But I'm glad you said from a baseball standpoint, Jackson, I need to be honest here. You love to hate on the Braves for no reason. But as a baseball fan in general, do you think Andrew Jones should be in the Hall of Fame?
Yes.
There you
Point
go.
blank, straightforward.
There you go.
And there is a reason why. Do you all know somebody? I'm not sure if the twins know. I'm pretty sure Steven knows. Do you all know somebody by the name of Kirby Puckett?
Yes, I actually do know
Why
Kirby.
would you? Why do you just
Personally.
assume we don't know? Why you just assume we don't know who that is?
Well, if you look up his stats, I actually have versus. So there's a thing we use on StatCast. I have Andrew Jones leads Kirby Puckett in 7 out of the 10 categories, and Kirby Puckett is an MLB Hall of Famer.
Like I mentioned before, Andrew Jones' stats surpasses at least 25% of the players that are sitting in the Hall of Fame right now. So I want to get put in front of the judge who makes these decisions, and I want to hear his reasoning. Because listen, is there something we're missing here? Honestly,
Well,
just
Steve,
I
I
just
think
something
It's
that
just,
I need
it's
to
his
know.
average. It's like Jackson said. If the average was like 10 points
Yeah.
higher, if the man batted at 270 all time, Andrew Jones would be a first
254.
ballot Hall of Famer tomorrow.
But it's
Like, if it was
ridiculous. It's
254.
ridiculous.
Well, Steven,
Absolutely.
I think another problem is you said it. I think they all assume he was just one dimensional. When you think of Andrew Jones, you think of defense.
I'll be back.
You forget to point out the fact that he was still very, very effective on offense. And I think, like I said, it's just the average. His average is low, and that's what hurts him the most. But don't take that away from the offensive accomplishments that he did have, alongside being one of the most dominant center fielders of all time.
Like I said, in my opinion, he had the best decade that a center fielder could ever have. Every year that he played from 1996 to 2007, man had a Gold Glove by God every year. He was
the best
incredible in
center
the
fielder.
outfield. The man was just a stellar defensive center fielder, but also he could put up the home run numbers as well. The man was a power hitter to go along with that. And he focused on power. I promise you, and we've seen it in the seasons that he did, on the seasons where he focused on just going base hits and just trying to get, more contact, he was able to do that. He had the 300 averages in those seasons. But later on in his career, he was like, screw that. I'm just not going to focus on average. I'm going to focus on power. And he did. And what do you think that should cost him? No.
I don't think
the man still was having 30 home runs a season.
Exactly, and I like you. I don't know. I just feel like he definitely wasn't like offensively like your just get on base utility guy. You're right. He had that pop, and he represented center fielders during the time that he played. He was the best center fielder in his time period in the MLB, and that's something that you don't need to be taken lightly. And I don't know what Andrew just brought downstairs. He just walked right past me.
But Andrew's about to give us his But yeah. That's the reason that I think, as far as underrated goes, obviously Andrew Jones, player in general, is not overrated. We all believe in baseball fandom. If you think that he's not a top 10 outfielder of all time, pick another sport to be a fan of, because you don't know jack about what you're talking about. I'm sorry. Andrew Jones is obviously, he's proven it. The man's incredible. The man's career's numbers speak for himself.
This is
MLB obviously doesn't believe that over all the other because obviously you have King Griffey, Willie Mays. When it's only those guys that are above you in the statistics that I just read off, how does that get you out of the Hall of Fame?
Exactly,
but Andrew.
That's a great question, Stephen.
But Andrew, who is your most underrated player? Because I don't think you've said yours yet.
No, I haven't. And I would play the guess the player, Steven, but honestly, I think this one might be a little bit of guess. Really, the only reason that I kind of stumbled on this player myself is he's actually a big fan of my uncle's. I remember one time, shout out to you, Uncle Mike, I was talking to him about some players that he liked watching, not really growing up, because he was a full-grown man by the time this guy played in the 90s through the early late 2000s. My guy is Brian Gills, ladies and gentlemen. He stands as of right now Giles. Sorry, as one of the most underrated MLB players. And this is largely due to Andrew Jones. You can point this out to him again. His underappreciated impact they had on the game, and just the relative structure of his career in general. And I will admit, he did have a lackluster start to his career when he got drafted by the Cleveland Indians, or caught up by the Indians, I should say. But Gills, his fortunes changed drastically when he was traded to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Shout out to your team, Brendan Willoughby Wade. And this was before the 1999 season. And this is kind of when his career started to bolster up a bit, because it was during his time with the Pirates when Giles demonstrated his exceptional offense. Everybody knows him for how impactful he was at the plate. He earned 2 All-Star selections during his time with the Pirates and posted an impressive average of 309 throughout his 4 seasons there. And his consistent production included averages of like 37 home runs during that 4-year stretch, 106 RBIs during that 4-year stretch, and he also had 10 stolen bases, which, was very uncommon for a guy of his physique and position. But this reflected the kind of player he was when it comes to power and versatility at the plate. Because despite, that impressive performance, the Pirates were unable to afford him. So they actually had to ship him off to the San Diego Padres, which is where he landed in my birth year back in 2003. And while his numbers of the Padres didn't match the heights that he reached in Pittsburgh, but Giles still continued to be very popularized, very respected among his peers, and his career totals included more than 300 walks and less than 200 strikeouts, which you put those numbers side by side, that just shows the amount of discipline that he had to play, which is something that I think the game of baseball is actually lacking now. And although Giles, that's pretty much all I had. I had another point come to mind, but it just went as quick as it came. But yeah, so basically, Giles, what I see in my eyes is a guy that really only had 5 or 6 years where he kind of dominated at the plate. The rest of his career, especially the late part of his career with the Padres, as I mentioned before, his numbers weren't the same. His numbers did drop. And so I'm not trying to sit here and make a case that he should be in the Hall of Fame like Andrew Jones, because honestly, his numbers just doesn't compare. But I think he's one of those guys that when you think of all the dominant players we had in the 90s, because he did play with Barry Bonds. And I think that's another reason why his career is to overshadow, because his golden years was with the years he was teammates with Barry Bonds. But yeah, his time with the Pirates, very, very consistent. Like I said, he averaged a 309 batting average with 37 home runs a year when he was with Pittsburgh. So yeah, and it's just one of those guys like that. I think that when you look back, like I said, players like Sammy Sosa were around the league, and you just kind of those guys like Giles just kind of flew under the radar. So use this opportunity to bring shed some light on him, because like I said, my uncle, very big fan of Giles when he was watching baseball in the 90s. So yeah,
I think in terms of versatility and power, you're right. He definitely stood alone. But I think based on your argument, I think probably what leaves him to not maybe get the respect maybe some would say he deserved is his inconsistency. You mentioned his slow start of his career, and when he was with the Padres, he never matched up to what he was with the Pirates. I think maybe that's why he flew under the radar in both seasons. But in terms of the rest of your argument, you could definitely say, yeah, he was underrated.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. He lost all sense of relevancy when he left the Pirates. That transaction to San Diego completely killed his career. But you go look at him with the Pirates, like I said, one of the most dominant hitters in the league for 4 or 5 seasons straight. So yeah, I don't know what you're doing, but if you want to come in for a Dinger Dudes interview, Giles, my uncle would be flattered. My uncle would be flattered.
I'm going to it right now. I'm being Mr. Giles.
As Jackson. Okay.
Andrew
do it for my Uncle Mike.
Laser, if you tune into episode 13 of Dinger.
Hey, since we're doing shout outs, by the way, shout out to Susan Kilgore. You know who you are. She wanted me to give her a shout out today.
Okay. Shout out to Susan.
Hey, I just wanted to mention one more underrated.
Shout out to any of my friends who actually, tune into this when I send you the link. Thank you.
Hey, I just did want to mention one more pitcher before we end. Actually, 2 pitchers before I'm not going to go in depth on a rant, but 2 underrated pitchers during their careers: Cole Hamels and Roy Oswalt. If y'all obviously know Cole Hamels, if you know who Roy Oswalt.
Yes, we know who Roy Oswalt is. We don't live under a rock, Jackson. We know who players are.
But hey, I just want to say, if you've reached the end of the video, use the keyword Paisley in the comments if you made it this far. And that is payback for what this man Jackson Bowles did to me on Out of Pocket. I had to get my moment. Let me see some Paisleys in the comments. All right,
it's not as bad.
I'm gonna go ahead and shout him out. I'm not gonna go into depth in it, but basically I'm just gonna go on like a 2-minute rant on this. Andrelton Simmons, I mentioned him before we went on air. Andrelton Simmons is a top 5 defensive shortstop of all time. In my opinion, there's an argument for top 3.
Yep.
Better defensive shortstop than Derek Jeter. I will die on that hill. I don't care. The man made better the Derek Jeter shortstop throw that everybody talks about. Andrelton Simmons mopped that out of the water with a throw that he made from behind third base all the way to first.
That was disgusting. Yeah, no, I
mean,
Steven.
This man literally threw out a runner from the seat of his pants in the outfield grass. By the way, he had an amazing arm. The man had an arm of like 99 miles an hour. The man was incredible. So yeah, Andrelton Simmons underrated, defensive. The reason that he's not talked about is because his offensive numbers were pretty abysmal.
Yeah,
but
he's kind of like Arcia this year. Obviously,
gotta get good. Jackson saying we gotta cut it off.
Obviously, Arcia defensively is as good as Andrelton Simmons.
Look at this play.
Yeah, that was insane.
Yeah, dude, screw the Derek Jeter throw. That right there is one of the best defensive shortstop plays of all time.
Triumph over Jeter. And I just want to say, if y'all caught one of our early reels for Dinger Dudes, before we even posted an episode, we all did our favorite players growing up. Mine, Andrelton Simmons, but yes, Steven, I'm so glad you brought him up. Very, very, reigns over Derek Jeter in terms of defensive stats.
But all right, that'll end this episode of Dinger Dudes. We appreciate you for tuning in. We appreciate you for listening. Like we said earlier, we're gonna have to go on a different schedule. We're gonna have to post the rest of the episodes for this season bi-weekly. Yep. So we're not gonna have another episode out for another 2 weeks because we're all in college. We all got stuff we have on our plates right now, but we're still going to be posting on social media pretty regularly. We're going to be posting more skits. We're going to be posting more games, more things on our Instagram. So keep in tune for that. Also on YouTube Shorts, we're going to be posting on that as well. But hey, we appreciate the support that y'all have given us over the summer. I mean, for crying out loud, we have 465 followers on Instagram and almost 120 subscribers on YouTube. If we all can get the word out, if we can get to 500, that's the goal right now on Instagram. Is we can get to 500 followers on Instagram, we would love it. And also, the ultimate goal is to get 150 subscribers on YouTube. So share with your friends. If you enjoyed the show, if you enjoy listening to us, please recommend us to a friend. Recommend us to other people.
Andrew,
and
catch my line drive to your face.
Okay. That thing's blood, buddy. That thing's blood. Okay, I don't know what we're doing. Sorry. But thank you guys for tuning in.
I just want to say, also, again, we do have an interview coming up with former Miami Marlins pitcher Justin Nicolino. And if you guys have not followed already, go to Wolf Sports Network, where we talk all sports, and it's a live radio show on YouTube. I'll probably link it down below as well. I'm gonna get this out tonight. I will get this out tonight because I have nothing going on for the rest of the night. But go follow that and subscribe to that YouTube as well. So
all right, with that being said, we appreciate you guys, and we will see you all next episode.
Peace out.